Okay, well, good night, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Let's start with the roll call. Oh, the call to order.
Okay, then we'll do roll call.
Okay. Behrens,
Here.
Eagle, Kanowski,
Here.
Bulow,
Here.
Fischler, Cramp.
Here.
Okay. So then we're gonna move to land acknowledgement with Carl.
Thank you. We're gathered here on the lands that were originally home to the Menominee and Ho-Chunk nations. We honor the Menominee and Ho-Chunk communities and are grateful for their stewardship of the land and waters. We acknowledge these ancestral grounds as sacred and remember the complex history of settler colonialism on these lands and the effect that persists today. We commit to a restorative and healing relationship of the original inhabitants and our community.
And then mission statement.
The mission of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion DEI Committee is to create a more welcoming, connected, and equitable Oshkosh by consciously including the richness and complexities of marginalized voices in its planning and function.
Now we have to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Do we have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Behrens,
Aye.
Eagle, Kanowski,
Aye.
Bulow,
Aye.
Cramp.
Aye.
Do you have anyone, any citizens, that would make one
Statements?
with the statements?
Yes. No citizens are registered for statements today, nor is there anyone registered for public comment on our agenda items.
Okay. The next agenda item is public comment.
No public comments, thank you.
So today we have as a guest speaker Beth Oswald, say that correctly? She's president and CEO of United Way Oshkosh. So, welcome, Beth.
Thank you.
Oh, well, I should have started with that one. So, I've been with Oshkosh Area United Way not quite 2 years, and this was pretty much my first question. I've heard very high-level oversight. What does United Way do? We make sure that the community thrives, but no, like, what do you actually do? So first I thought I would share just a little bit about me and my background. So, in second grade, my second grade teacher wrote in my report card that Beth can turn any quiet little lamb into a roaring lion. So she would move me around into each corner of the room, and what she didn't realize is she was just helping me build this community of people around me. So when we got in trouble for what she thought was cheating, we were able to convince her that we were just working together to get things done. And it worked, but only once. After that, she was very specific in her instructions. So, whoops. For Pete's sake, sorry, I'm not used to this clicker. So my parents had hoped I would take just a nice, really direct path. My dad worked in law enforcement for his entire career. My mom was a special ed teacher for her entire career. Both very community-oriented, community-focused, really wanted to help basically the underdogs in the community. My path, though, was a little different. I never really knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I went to school for criminal justice, then I went on to get a business degree, and I was basically in banking and finance for most of my career until I decided I wanted to do something different with my life. So I turned to nonprofit. I worked for a little bit at Aurora for a healthcare foundation, not really my thing. And then Christine Ann Domestic Abuse agency came calling. So I was the executive director for Christine Ann for almost 7 years. That's where my business, how to run a business, and my criminal justice, really social justice kind of came together. So finally my mom was happy that I was able to use my 2 degrees. Like I said, my parents did instill that community in me, and every position I had kind of helped me advance my growth as a leader. But United Way's community or collective impact is kind of what resonated with me, even though I wasn't exactly sure how we got there. I have a now 25-year-old son who, when he was 7, was diagnosed with a brain disorder. When he was 11, he had to have brain surgery, and it was experimental. So experimental means insurance isn't paying for it, and if you want it done, you have to come up with the money. And I just said, we're doing it. We're gonna figure it out. Put the ask out, spread the news, and we had people from all over the country send, I know it's not much, but here's $50, and we were able to raise the $100,000 for the surgery. So that's when, like, okay, collective impact, like these small gifts can make a huge impact, and I know that I've seen it. So that's really kind of what led me to learn more about United Way. So we prioritize the 3 focus areas because we recognize how these areas, mental health, early education, and financial stability, really intersect. So kids who don't meet their reading proficiency by 3rd grade have a lower high school graduation rate, leading to instability in their earning power, and then really that if they don't have a strong job, that leads to health disparities and mental health issues potentially in the future. So there's been for years this misconception that United Way really functions just as a pass-through funder. So give to United Way so we can give to Christine Ann. Give to United Way so we can give to Solutions. We're trying to combat that, and I see why it looks that way because we do fund programs that serve the community. But while we fund programs, our whole concept is to fund initiatives. So we fund initiatives for the community that really intersect between mental health, financial stability, and early education, no matter who is running them. Some of them we run, some of them the community runs, some of them we incubate and we partner. So that's really kind of my word jumble up there is really what we do is we strategize to define what our role is. So if somebody else is doing it really well in the community, that's not our place to take it on. Maybe they just need a partner, or maybe they just need a funder. We can bring other funders in to do co-funding. So our goal really is to strategize for the needs of the community. One of the initiatives that we lead and own is Volunteer Oshkosh. So prior to 2020, there was no volunteer center in Oshkosh. Yeah, isn't that interesting? There may have been forever ago, but it was just popcorn style. Let me call Christine Ann because I like what they do and see if they have needs. So United Way determined, well, we've got a marketing person, we have the capability and the capacity to run a website and really create a volunteer center in Oshkosh. So this is one of the initiatives that we own. It's more than just a website though. We can do this at about a quarter of the cost of running a standalone nonprofit, and we didn't want another nonprofit in town when it was something that we could keep in-house. So Amy, our marketing manager, works with nonprofits to develop job descriptions, highlights things. It's very, very robust. So people can learn more about just an organization through our website. They can go directly, I only want to fold clothes because I don't want to talk to anybody. You can search by that. We have 40,000 volunteer opportunity views each year. So we've got a huge portion of our community is going here to look at different volunteer opportunities. We have 26,000 just organizational views, so people are looking just at the organization, and that was just last year's total. We had almost 500 new users registered last year and 800 volunteer responses. So 800 volunteer responses were click, yes, I want to respond. We don't play middleman in this. It goes directly to the program for the program to then determine, is this a good fit, is it not? And we figured we'll let them own that volunteer opportunity. We've had programs say, hey, we hired positions because this volunteer was so awesome. They've gotten donors and the community more connected with what they do. So it's been a really cool initiative for us.
And Beth, if I remember right, they can actually track their hours.
They can track their hours, they can do everything. So you
Yeah.
can set, I need 4 people from 2 to 3, 4 people from 3 to 4, people can sign up, those hours can close. I mean, it really is a robust platform for organizations to use and for the community to use, because you can search for, we would sometimes get people at Christine Ann saying, hey, I have community service, I need to fulfill that. Well, understanding the closed site and some of the issues that could be with community service, we said we're probably not the right organization for you. Where do I go? I don't know. Well, you can search by community service opportunities through Volunteer Oshkosh, so.
And you can set up alarms too, because I use that, and you set up things you like,
Oh,
and
good.
whenever there is an opportunity, it will pop up in your email.
Perfect.
Cool.
So you don't have to search every day, you can just.
Right, yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah. Thank you. Should have had you and Carl.
We're here for you.
That's really cool.
So strategy development, we try to use data, but good grief, there's so much data everywhere, and where do we start, and where do we, and how do we, and what do we use? Well, intuitively, we knew, even just from reading in the paper, that reading scores in the schools have been dropping. So we had a conversation with the school district, and they reported to us that in 2012, 67% of kids entering kindergarten could identify at least 21 letters. By 2020, entering kindergarten, only 12% of those kids could identify up to 21 letters. So kids entering kindergarten now don't even know their letters. So these teachers are starting earlier, or kids need much more time to get up to that 3rd grade proficiency. So what we did to try to combat that is we run a program called the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So it really is for kids from birth to 5. Anybody here experience that?
Yep. Yep.
Would you like to
Yeah, I have 2 kids. One of them, he is 8 now, so 3 years ago he graduated out of the Imagination Library, and it's very sweet because the last book they send you is a book about preparing for kindergarten, and it's very, very sweet. And now I have a 3-year-old, so he's getting the books every month, and there are different books every month. He's gotten completely different ones than his older brother's gotten. It's really wonderful to build up our library, and there's a lot of books by authors of color. There's a lot of books that are like in English and in Spanish. It's
Yes.
lovely.
So parents can sign up if they would like bilingual, if they only want Spanish. I don't know if there are other languages other than Spanish.
Yeah, I've only gotten the
We only
Spanish ones.
have people signed up for English or Spanish. But they're curated by age, so 0 to maybe 2 are the big chunky board books, and as they get a little older, they get a little more progressive in their reading. And it really just is to encourage reading in the home. It comes every month. If anybody has kids and they get something in the mail, they want to open it right away. I mean, they never get things in the mail, so it's a really cool, I'm sure,
Yeah.
as you
It's-
saw, like, I have mail, when's the next one
Yeah,
coming?
it's
It
very
is.
exciting. And we
It
call them presents from Aunt Dolly. That's what we
Yeah.
call them.
No, Ivan show. I'm also part of that. I have a 3-year-old. It was her birthday last week, and she got a message, a video message saying happy birthday from
that's
Dolly. So I was like,
nice.
see, this is the lady that sends you the books. So
The books, yep. So that's a program that we fund. So when we raise money, that's a piece of what we raise money for, is to be able to continue to fund that program. We have over 1,700 kids in that program. Now, each month it changes a little bit because some graduate and some sign on again. Each book costs somewhere about $2.50, $3 a book. So if you can quickly do the math, you can see how, I mean, this is an expensive program for us to run. But we see and we hear so many stories like that families love it. So this is a piece of that collective impact. So when we go out and present, you know, if you make a $50 donation, that more than covers one book, or one child for a year to get books that entire year.
One of my favorite things when I was at the Oshkosh Area Community Food Pantry is Elizabeth, their program manager, has a kids corner, and they accept book donations. So we'd see kids come in, and when they had aged out of the program or whatever, they would donate their collection of the Dolly Parton books so that somebody else could come in and grab them from the pantry.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't know that. That's cool. We used to partner, well, we still partner with the school district, but we had, the Oshkosh Area School District would check the PALS score, Phonetic Assessment Literacy Screening, Phonetic Awareness Literacy Screening scores. Kids, so we gave them the list of our kids that were in the program. They would compare that to the scores, and the kids that were in the Dolly Parton Imagination program scored, averaged about 20% higher in their entry scores for that kindergarten readiness, as opposed to kids that weren't in that program. I don't know if it's 100% correlated, but we know there's a correlation between kids that are read to and being ready to learn letters, how to hold a book, and reading. School district moved from PALS to iReady in, I think, 22, so now we're just trying to figure out, like, how do we adjust for different, but we want to continue to be able to measure that and at least show the good that does. Okay. Then moving on, unfortunately, again, with the declining reading scores, when school shut down, that really exponentially hit those kids that were in that early, you know, kindergarten to third grade. We know their focus is all over the place. It's really hard, and with parents trying to work and do everything, they couldn't sit and read with kids like teachers would during the day. So we knew that we had these kids that were in this gap that maybe weren't connected with a program to get them up to speed because they were just kind of getting by, but they weren't at that proficient level. Again, we know the third grade, the Institute for Educational Sciences says 1 in 6 kids who aren't reading proficiently by third grade are not going to graduate from high school on time. So we started a program called Growing Readers. This is one that we incubated. So we had the concept, there's gotta be, we're in the middle of a campus, of a college education teaching school. There's gotta be something that we can do. So we worked with UWO and Oshkosh School District to find a curriculum that would be appropriate for college students to lead, and Oshkosh Area School District identifies the kids that are just kind of about to fall through the gap, but again, aren't getting necessarily some structured programming, and they get paired up with a college student who's a tutor, and the tutors meet them either at school, at the Boys and Girls Club. The tutors travel to meet the kids where they're at, and it's just a reading program that has a specific curriculum to help them just increase their level. So now they're interacting with somebody who is cool and looks like their big brother, big sister, not like grandma is reading to them. You know, they can connect with them. And we have these tutors in, and it's just cool. The tutors also, I thought I'd love to work with kids. It really is sometimes challenging. And I learned, Riley talked about, it helped me learn patience and different ways of communication. So it's really mutually beneficial, and it's just a cool program to hear from the tutors as well as the families that are experiencing it. So we fund to make sure that these tutors are paid. So it's not a free program. So the university either pulls from work study if the students are eligible. Those that don't have a work-study option, then we fund to make sure that they're paid. So they're getting credit, but we know internships sometimes aren't paid internships, and we want to make sure that that's a paid opportunity for them. So they're getting school credit, they're getting experience, and they're getting a paycheck. Another piece of data that United Way has a data collection initiative called ALICE. So this is part of our nationwide initiative. Not every region participates in this. So ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, but Employed. So it really highlights the challenges that households face in our community. Some of the old verbiage was like the working poor. So these are individuals that are working and they're making more than the federal poverty level, but not enough to really get by. County Health Department has used it. Community benefit plans from healthcare's use this data to identify local social determinants of health. We've had economic development programs look to see where our community is at compared to statewide. Nonprofits, we use some of this information when we're looking at program evaluation. And so this is something that we partner with our national United Way to get data to them, and that we also fund some of the data research, and we make it an open report so it's available for anybody to view. It is super detailed and crazy heavy, but they do a nice job of highlights with, if you want to learn more, click here. So it's called at unitedforalice.org. So if you're interested in any of this information. Now, Oshkosh Area United Way covers southern Winnebago County. So we're Oshkosh, Amro, Winneconne school districts, so little Eureka and Black Wolf, and anybody who's in those school districts is who we cover. So you have to really drill down to try to parse out, because there's a lot of Winnebago County information, and we have some higher end parts of Winnebago County that skews, so we pull out the information for our school districts. So if we're looking for unitedforalice.org, see, yeah, that's the website. So the data that they have is from 2022. We're waiting for more recent data to come out, but 41% of Oshkosh area residents live below the ALICE threshold. So the threshold really is a survival budget. It considers local costs of rent, utility, childcare, transportation, groceries, that kind of thing, and comes up with a number that would be like, if you made this much money, you would get by. For a family of four, they have examples of a family of four, a two-parent household with 2 young kids, one in childcare. The amount to get by would be $83,000 in this area. So you're taking into consider childcare costs. If you have kids in daycare, you know how exponentially expensive that is. So for our area, 15% is in that poverty, so they are in that federal poverty level window, and 26% are above the poverty level, but earning less than really what they need to afford their household budget. Some of the other data points, I'm sorry, that's far, you can't really see, I wasn't sure how big this room was. But this is race. So the data is an unbiased picture of the financial hardship, but we know that the households are very diverse, but the financial hardship is not equally distributed. We know individuals of color are disproportionately in the ALICE category, resulting, as a result of barriers to education, homeownership, healthcare. We're working toward trying to understand who is most affected and where we have the capacity to help. So we understand homelessness is a huge issue. With what we have to grant out and our capacity, we're not going to solve homelessness, unfortunately, without some federal legislation or somebody big coming in. So where can we have the most impact, even if it's just a temporary Band-Aid to get by until we can get some more systems working? ALICE also talks about, indicators of well-being. So we may not know what the root causes are, and if you look at a shelter, the population in a shelter, there may be 50 different root causes. But ALICE has identified some of the indicators of what allows people to thrive, and one of those is like internet access. So we know if we can provide internet access to more regions that don't have access to it, that can help people start to thrive, rather than them having to use a phone or go to the library. So that's kind of the work that we're doing to, with using some of the data in ALICE. So again, it gets a little overwhelming where, oh my gosh, can we make a dent at all? One of the initiatives, though, that we support is 211, if you're familiar with that at all. So it really is all your community resources in one place. It also serves as the Wisconsin Addiction Recovery Hotline. So 211 is a federal dialing code that's available in 94% of the United States. Again, we have a local call center, so think of kind of like a 911. There's a bunch of centers, and you'll be routed to the one. Now 911 is wherever you call, it'll route you. 211, you put in the zip code that you're looking for. So we have one of my coworkers has elderly family in Arizona. I don't know how to help them. I don't know where to start to call. So her mom called 211, put in the Arizona zip code. She was directed to the resource center down there and was able to get some resources for her family. So they work all together, but each one is funded independently. So we fund the 211 here. We partner with them for State Street.
Oh,
State Street Mental Health Walk-In.
Stacy Center.
Yes, so when that first came out, I reached out to Lisa Smith, who runs the 211 Center locally, and said, have you met Julie? Do you know about this program? I had no idea this program. So we act kind of as a conduit of, hey, do you know when day by day we were getting calls saying, I was told to call day by day, and we don't know what's going on, we can't get in there. I talked with Molly, and then you gave us that tour, and hey, we were able to connect with 211, say, hey, their model has pivoted a little bit, and it's a waiting list, so that at least they're not saying, go to day by day and stand in line because you'll get your spot. So we can at least set the expectations for those individuals, so we're giving them accurate resources. 211 takes a ton of information and uses a lot of data, and then we use that data to really help with some of our initiatives. And what are we focusing on? We may think we want to focus on food, but when we're looking at this of the top needs, we can see housing is way out there. Housing and transportation. Some of this data is shocking when we think about who's calling, because we can drill into even zip codes where's the highest concentration from which zip codes that are calling in that need support. So when we look at who's working together to address some of these needs, that's where we allocate funding if somebody's doing the work. For transportation, Go Transit has the Access to Jobs program, where they, outside of the transit system, but those individuals, they can fund up to 200% of federal poverty level. Well, for an individual person, 200% I think is like $14.50 an hour. Amcor is paying $15 an hour. They don't qualify. Even though they haven't started working, they were hired, and they have now a paper that says you make $15 an hour, but now you don't qualify for that. We know transportation is a huge issue, so we funded the program to be able to offset and fund anyone between 200 and 225%. So at least there's a population that now are going to start to work. They're going to be over, but we can help bridge that gap. It's kind of that benefit cliff piece. Sorry, again, with my old lady eyes, it's hard to see. That's why I have my notes, but just, we know that federal poverty level isn't keeping up. for an individual person, if you do the math, that 15,000 is $7.24, 1 penny under minimum wage. So if you're making minimum wage and you're working 40 hours a week, oh, you make a penny too much. Now, we know a lot of programs go up to 150%, some 200%. But when you think of rents here in town for a single person, can you even find an apartment for $600? If you think of applications are looking for 25% of your income should go to rent. If you're over that, you're probably not qualified. Well, 25% is, even at 150, if you make 150%, 25% is 520. I don't know if there's any apartments for 520. And now think of a family of 3 or family of 4 that might have different genders of kids that they can't share a room. So now we need a 3-bedroom because we have a teen and a young or something like that. This just talks about married is on the left. Single female headed household is in the middle. Single male headed household. So those are people with children. So we know that childcare relies on typically the mom. So when we're looking at where we might be able to support, we've seen in the news over the last few years how childcare is a crisis. The childcare counts, thankfully, were renewed not too long ago, but for quite a while, there was a big concern that childcare counts were going to be going away. That would just topple our economy here if daycares had to close. Daycares run at such tight margins. While this was all happening, we were working with Child Care Resource and Referral. They were identifying a number of local daycare providers that were saying, hey, I now need a radon mitigation that I don't need for my home, but I need to have that for licensure. It's $2,500. I can't, if these counts go away, I'm gonna have to close my center. So we, United Way, found a federal grant, it's called Dream Up, and it was a child care supply building grant. So we could use this money for anything. If we wanted to pay for all of us to sit around and talk about how we can better child care, we could use it for whatever we wanted. So we pulled in Greater Economic Oshkosh, the Chamber, Child Care Resource and Referral, the County Health Department, and created a Greater Oshkosh Child Care Task Force. How are we gonna address this? This is gonna be detrimental to our community. So we wrote a grant for $75,000 and wanted that money to go really directly to the child care providers. So we could alleviate, hey, you need that radon mitigation, we can take care of that for you. What do you need to remain open, and what can we do to expand the pool of providers and expand, there's a number of uncertified daycare providers. I'll take everybody's kids in my home, but it's now a home that's not safe, and unfortunately some of those regulations are there. I heard burn fire pit. I don't know the details about there, but I know that usually that stuff starts because of something negative that happened, so now we want to regulate. And I know things get over-regulated, but so how could we encourage unregulated to become certified or even licensed? And we were able to do that through this program. So we received a $75,000 grant. And what that did is it opened up 114 new slots. We had 3 child care providers that were, hey, I'm curious and interested, so we could fund the foundational programs, get them a fence in their yard, and some of the things that they needed to be able to get their child care center open. We were able to keep some child care centers and providers that open that were talking about closing. And then there was still some money left over, and because we were able to do so much and they were so thrilled with what we did, we received another $25,000 that will be going to Child Care Resource and Referral wants to create a pool of substitute teachers. So you have a daycare in your home. When do you ever go to the doctor? You can't. Either you have to find somebody, you find your sister to come and watch the kids, which isn't quite, but we know it happens, or you take kids with you, or you shut down and now you have 4 or 5 parents that have to find alternate resources. We've had providers have a baby and say, in 2 weeks, I'm gonna have to go back to work because this is my income. And I don't get paid time off because it's my own income. So at least this pool of substitute teachers would alleviate, programs could have somebody come in for 4 hours while they do paperwork, while they go to an appointment, while they take care of whatever they need to take care of. The county, Winnebago County helped fund a part of this program. The city, I think it was declined by the city, so there was a gap, so we were able to use some of this $25,000 to help with some of the hiring and program costs for that. So this is a program, so the task force is continuing to have conversations, and this is a program that maybe could be something that we incubate later on. So, we support. Does support mean advocacy? Does it mean funding? Does it mean we need to take something on? Sometimes it just means being a voice. If any of you read any of the newspapers ever for the last year, you probably saw Angry Beth in there with the ARPA/Spirit funding. I was there to make sure that Spirit funding, a portion of it at least, went to the residents and the community to support our most vulnerable in this community. We were able to get a little over $5 million directed directly to the nonprofits that are supporting really a lot of the basic needs in this community. We have a vault inside of so we moved into a bank and we have a big vault that's our community vault. So if we can just do general, hey, drives for whatever the needs are, cleaning supplies and soap, and then programs can come and pick up whatever they need, because I remember at Christine Ann, we don't have room for half of this stuff. So it was, well, take 5 of them, but I'll have to keep coming back for 5 of them to my donors because I don't have any place to put the rest of them. We have a giant vault, so we have people. We also have programs now saying, hey, I got too much of this, we're never gonna use this, and they're donating it back to our vault, and then we reach out to the programs and say, hey, we have an overabundance of XYZ, and the programs come in and just get what they need. And it's a nice way, especially for some things like shampoo or body wash that's maybe more specific for ethnic hair. Everybody gives White Rain, but that doesn't work on every hair and every hair texture. So we might have some stuff on hand that's specific to the needs for your clients. Professional development, nonprofit management, we are the experts on this. That might sound boastful, but I feel really confident that we know how to run a nonprofit in the legal and financial. So we've had I'm just starting a nonprofit, I don't know what I'm doing, can you help me? So we guide through that. We have some programs that are, I don't wanna start a nonprofit, I just do a fundraiser once a year, the back to school fair, some things like that I just need somebody to be able to be a fiscal agent, because if I apply for a grant but I'm not a nonprofit, they can't give it to me. But they can give it to a fiscal agent because we will monitor the money, we'll make sure that it's going to what it's being used for. So that's the type of thing that we can act as to support programs in the community. Someone asked, Melinda, someone I was supposed to be here in February, and then everything happened. Somebody had put in the request to at least share how we get our funding source. So primarily through individual donors. 40% of our individual donor gifts are $100 or less. In-kind volunteerism, that's how we fill some gaps. We don't really get any federal funding for us directly. Now, the Dream Up grant we're the administrators for that grant, but that was kind of a one-off. So local grants, foundations, sponsorships. We try not to be event heavy because everybody's doing events, and I don't wanna be the organization that took you as a sponsor, that you are deciding between the nonprofit or me. So Race for the Light used to be at Christine Ann. When I left, the new director said, I don't wanna do this anymore. It's, if you wanna take it with you. So we don't make it a sponsored event, we just make it a family fun event. And then through collaborative funding. So there's some initiatives that, hey, we can't afford to do this whole thing, but we bring it to other funders. I'm in a funders group that runs through the Fox Valley, and we all sit down and talk about like, well, what are some cool initiatives that are happening? And we've had funders bring up things that, hey, I can't fund this because of regional or whatever reasons, but other people have picked up funding these programs. So that's another resource that we make available to our nonprofits. So this is just really the example of, no matter, we're trying to get away from, here's how much we allocated out, and here's how much we do for this and that. We really put together youth-focused education. So that's a blend of programs that we run and the community runs. But collaboration really is at the forefront of our work. I thought you'd like to see Mrs. Witt. Doesn't she look what a second grade teacher
Yeah.
looked like? I swear, this is what she looked like 45 years ago when she was my second grade teacher. She passed away just a couple years ago at 96. She also told my mom she'd hope I use my powers for good someday. So I'm trying to use those, what she called powers for good. But the United Way work just aligns with my passion of just like trying to bring people together to do good for the community and support each other. So that's it.
Thank you.
And of course, if people
was
want
just
to
gonna say
help,
questions,
yes, if people
please.
want to help, you have your volunteer website, and of course, gifts are always accepted as well.
Always accepted, yes. So, I know you asked a couple questions during, but I'm happy to answer if you have questions.
Well, we appreciate you coming in, and, you know, part of this is helping to educate us as well as the community about what your organization does and how many people that it helps and how they can potentially help if that's something they're interested in.
And
Thank you.
And you do that with, you only have 4 staff, right?
We do.
Yeah.
So
which
we
is
make sure that, right. Yes, so that's why we don't have the capacity, and we need to be realistic about, we don't have the capacity to do a lot of the direct client work. So what in the background can we help with to make sure that stuff gets done, so.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay. Shall we move?
Yeah.
Okay, so here the next topics to discuss any day committee meeting structure recommendations.
Right. We spoke very, very briefly at the last meeting about, you know, basically how our meeting is structured, the time we meet, the day we meet, some of the content. So if anyone has any thoughts or recommendations, we can discuss those. We wouldn't vote on anything today, but you know, if they see anything in particular that they would like to at least bring up, that's great. This doesn't have to be something we discuss today either, but just thought I'd throw it on there.
I like Carl's idea to have it here. Just
I don't know if that will be something we can accommodate, but.
So I have a question, because we have a couple more members than are here tonight. Did they give, and they weren't here last meeting either, did they give a reason why they're not able to come? Is this time bad? Is this time bad for them? Is this day bad for them?
We have not heard much from the couple of members
Okay.
as of late, so we really don't know. Of course, we do have one seat open that hopefully will be getting filled within the next couple of council meetings, I'm hoping. But I don't have any information about those other 2 members.
Okay. Because I do know, obviously, from a city council standpoint, that's one of the, when we did a redesign last year based on a big study, and we really want to have active members to these kind of boards and commissions. So with our open seat, for anybody watching, please apply. You can go right into the OshkoshWisconsin.gov, and you can search through for that. But I want, if possible, can one of you reach out to those members to see if they want to continue to be on this board and commission, so that we can get them replaced with active members if they don't?
I have reached out to them
Okay.
in the recent months, but have not received a response
Okay.
regarding their interest in leaving the committee. So we can
Okay, let's,
discuss that more.
yeah, let's have a conversation then afterwards and
Yeah.
talk about possibly moving forward with different direction.
Okay?
I don't have anything. Nothing right at the moment.
All right.
Okay.
And again, if there is anything that we want to change in the future, obviously something we can always discuss, so.
So the next item would be a roundtable to share any related activities and events in the area. I know Dragon Boat's coming, right, next month? No, 2 months from now.
September.
September.
Yeah.
But the registration is open. Last time I checked, it wasn't yet, but I think it's already open. What else?
Yes, there's a few things. The 56th Annual Menominee Nation Powwow, August 2nd to the 4th in Appleton. There is a Culture in the Valley, Sunday, August 18th at Jones Park in Appleton, where I'm not overly familiar, but it sounds like basically bring your picnic blankets, and there will be art, dancing, poetry, music, etc., open to the public. So those are a couple of things that I know are coming up in the future, as well as our Dragon Boat, which is the September 14th.
The only other thing I want to call out here is, since our last meeting, the Oshkosh Pride Festival at the Leach happened. It was an amazing day. It was a beautiful day. There was a line to get in, which, just warmed my heart when we got there. And then they moved that line really, really quick. So I just wanted to call out the founders and runners of that and the volunteers for that event, because that was an amazing, amazing day.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Wonderful.
Any other events? No? Okay, so the next one would be any outstanding items.
Right, we normally kind of go through any future items that we're aware of, at least on the council agenda. So for future meetings, so not specifically for tomorrow night, but of course, we've got budget workshops coming up. I'm sure council's looking forward to those.
So much fun.
The August the August meeting, the first meeting in August is August 14th on Wednesday instead of the 13th, due to elections. So in case anybody's interested in attending that has been moved to Wednesday, August 14th. There is a closed session coming up for Boatworks Development. They want to talk about undergrounding utilities, no dates on that yet. City manager's review is scheduled in a closed session for July 30th. And firework regulation and enforcement is to be on the calendar for August 14th. And I know you said something about fire pits as well.
Yeah, so tomorrow is the first reading of ordinance 24-440, and it was brought up by a city council member wanting to take a deep dive into the permit fee, which is $15 per year to utilize an outdoor permit. I have my own personal thoughts about it, but I wanted to bring it up to the committee to see if anybody else had thoughts. So the way that the permit works is you can do it even on your phone, but I'll tip my scales. The way that I feel here is I like the permit process and the fee as well, because it forces you to go through and read the rules about having a water source there handy, about having it away from buildings, about what you can and can't burn in an outdoor fire pit. But I wanted to get any other thoughts that I wasn't thinking about when it comes to the fee is $15 and you have to, go online to get it. So any thoughts that you guys had?
Is it possible at all to go in person to pay for the permit, or do you have to do it online?
I would have to check.
Okay.
I know historically you could go to the fire department, but I don't know if that is still an option. I don't think they would turn you away at Station 15.
Okay.
But I know historically, everyone used to go there to get their permit, but they've added online resources.
Okay.
I can double check for sure if you can still go to the
Thank you.
Station 15.
And my question would be, does it apply for any fire pit or in-ground or, those little ones that you carry around and you keep it
So I
covered?
believe that they're in the city limits, they're supposed to be above ground. I don't use a fire, I don't burn in my backyard, so I don't actually know. But I believe that's part of the thing, is that they're supposed to be above ground so that it doesn't spread out. I don't think they can be permanent, but I could be wrong. But then it has in there all the things that you can and can't do. Awesome.
Any other questions? Nope. Any other topics? Then we will move to future items in the agenda. Do we have some future items?
I don't believe we have any more speakers scheduled at this time. We do have a list of speakers that we do go to. Again, the area that has been most interesting to this group has been around housing, literacy, food, some of those basic needs. So we have had quite a few local nonprofits come to our meetings over the last couple of years. We did talk a little bit about potentially inviting the library to talk a little bit about their children's, well, not just their children's programming, but a little bit about some of the things that they do and offer within the community as something that potentially we would want to share with this committee. I know the library did come a couple of years ago when Director Gilderson Dewey was still here. I don't remember when that was, but it's been a while. So, any organizations that you think would be helpful to have come speak, certainly, we want to share with the community what resources are available within the community to help, help our citizens.
Have we ever had John Neiman from COTS in to talk about what he does, what they do?
I don't think we have had COTS. I
Okay.
think they are on our list.
And right now would be a good time, because I know they were just awarded ARPA money as well for some expansion of their programming, and it's really cool what they do.
And I think Boys and Girls just expanded in Oshkosh as well.
Yeah, and
I think they have a different area for older kids and smaller kids. I think they used to be all together, now they expanded. I believe it was in Oshkosh, so I
Yeah.
think would be good to invite
Okay,
them to.
yeah, and I don't recall having Boys and Girls Club in, so those would definitely be some great ideas. Again, we can reach out to see if they have some availability, would be interested, so. Yeah, any other ideas too, feel free to send them to us. Again, because part of our initiative is education, both for ourselves as well as how we can help bring information to our citizens.
Okay, perfect. So then, should I just call for the?
Right? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.